Hi guys, how are you doing? Reborn Nation and Ashley Stormfire. We're going to read tonight, but I wanted to introduce you to my newest baby. This is Quimby. Her name is Ashlyn Faith Ann. Isn't she cute? She's a little peanut. I don't know if I'll bond fully with her, but we'll see. She is just a little tiny thing, but she's going to sit with me today while we read, and Ashley Stormfire is going to enjoy it. Hold on one second, guys. Okay, sorry about that. All right, we are on chapter 15 of Where the Red Fern Grows. So if you remember the last chapter, as it was ending, the grandpa had signed him up for the championship hunting tournament, and they were headed on their way out for the tournament. So let's see where we pick up. Okay, Ashlyn. Over a dim rocky road in a northeasterly direction, our buggy moved on. I noticed that the road stayed at the edge of the foothills, but always in sight of the river. About the middle of the afternoon, we stopped at a small stream of water to water the team. Papa asked Grandpa if he intended to go all the way to the campground before stopping. No, he said. I figured we could put up for the night when we reached Bluebird Creek. With a good early start in the morning, we could make it to the campground in plenty of time to pitch our tents and set up camp. Late that evening, we reached Bluebird Creek. We didn't set up our tent. With a tarp, we made a lean-to and built a large fire out in front of it. Oh, before I go on, by the way, I did look up boogers when he said that the boogers startled the cattle. I tried to figure out what that was, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to find anything. Nowadays, boogers just refer to the solid chunks in your nose. So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to determine what that was referring to. But I did try. While Grandpa fed and watered the team, Papa and I carried our bedding to the shelter and made our beds. Grandpa said, "While we're cooking supper, you see to your dogs, feed them and fix them a warm bed. I figured to cook them some cornmeal mush," I said. "That's what they're used to eating." "Mush," Grandpa growled. "They're not going to have mush, not if I can help it." He walked over to the grocery box, mumbling as he did, "Mush, a hound can't hunt on a belly full of that stuff." He came back and handed me 2 large cans of corned beef hash, saying, "Here, reckon they'll eat this." I wanted to hug my old grandpa's neck. "Sure, Grandpa," I said, "they'll love that." Opening one of the cans, I dumped it out on a piece of bark in front of old Dan. He sniffed at it and refused to eat. I laughed, for I knew why. While I was opening the other can, Grandpa came over. "What's the matter?" he asked. "Why won't he eat?" "Sure, Grandpa," I said, "he'll eat, but not before little Ann gets her share." With the second can opened, I fed her on another piece of bark. Both of them started eating at the same time. With an astonished look on his face, Grandpa exclaimed, "Well, I'll be darned. I never saw anything like that. Why, I never saw a hound that wouldn't eat. Did you train them to do that?" "No, Grandpa," I said. "They've always been that way. They won't take anything away from each other, and everything they do it as one." Papa overheard our conversation. He said, "You think that's strange. You should have seen what I saw the other day." One of the girls threw 2 cold biscuits out in the backyard to old Dan. He stood and looked at them for a bit, and then picking both of them up in his mouth, he trotted around the house. I followed just to see what he was going to do. He walked up in front of the doghouse, laid them down, and growled. Not like he was mad. It was a strange kind of growl. Little Ann came out of the doghouse, and each of them ate a biscuit. Now, I saw this with my own eyes. Believe me, those dogs are close to each other, real close. After Papa had stopped talking, silence settled over the camp. Grandpa stood staring at my dogs. In a low voice, as if he were picking his words, he said, "You know, I've always felt there was something strange about those dogs. I don't know just what it is, and I can't exactly put my finger on it, yet I can feel it. Maybe it's just my imagination. I don't rightly know." Hold on one second. Do you want to get up there, Ev? Let's let Evie say hi to the aunties and uncles on the camera. Come here, Ev. Here's Miss Everly. Here's Miss Everly. Look at that face. Hold on. You gotta see it the way I see it. Look at that cutie pie. Look at those little baby eyes. Look at those little baby eyes. You're so little. You're so cute. You're such a good girl. You're such a good girl. You are such a good girl. Look at that fat round belly. We're getting chubby, huh? We're getting chubby bubby. Okay. Put you up there with Auntie Ashley, okay? There you go. You can scoot your car seat back if you want so she can, there you go, so she can sit. There you go, Ev. All right, sorry about that. I wanted to get my baby situated. I want to make sure Ashley's on the camera with us too. She's holding her babies. Do you want to introduce your babies before we go on?
Oh, sure. This is Hartley. He's my silicone baby. And then this is Tasia. She's Reborn and asleep. And this is Quincy, who is the Fritzy kit.
Ashley and I do this once a month. She comes over for 2 days, two nights and 3 days. We just have such a great time. We are so close. We actually met through Reborns. I found was it Macari or what? Or Offer Up. I saw a Reborn on Offer Up, and I contacted the seller, and it was Ashley Stormfire, and we became really good friends. And over the years, we've just gotten closer and closer, and now we're family.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, where were we? Let's see. Turning to my father, he said, "Did you ever notice the way they watch this boy? They watch every move he makes." Papa said, "Yes, I've noticed a lot of things they have done. In fact, I could tell you a few that you would never believe. But right now, there's something you had better believe. Supper is ready." While I was helping myself to the hot Dutch oven cornbread, fried potatoes, and fresh side meat, Grandpa poured the coffee. Instead of 2 cups I expected to see, he set out 3. He filled them to the brim with the strong black liquid. I had never been allowed to drink coffee at home, and I didn't know exactly what to do. I glanced at Papa. He seemed too busy with his eating to pay attention to me. Taking the bull by the horns, I reached over and ran my fingers through the cup's handle. I held my breath as I walked over and sat down by a post oak stump. Nothing was said. Grandpa and Papa paid no attention to what I did. My head swelled up as big as a number 4 wash tub, I thought. I'm not only big enough to help Papa with the farm, now I'm big enough to drink coffee. With supper over and the dishes washed, Grandpa said, we'd better turn in if we want to get an early start in the morning. Long after Grandpa and Papa had fallen asleep, I lay awake thinking of the big hunt. My thoughts were interrupted when the wonders of night life began to stir in the silence around us. From a ridge on our right, a red fox started barking. He was curious and in his small way challenging the intruders that dared stop in the middle of his wild domain. From far back in the flinty hills, the monotonous call of a hoot owl floated down in the silent night. It was the mating call and was answered from a distant mountain. I could hear the stamping feet of our horses and the grinding, crunching noise made by their strong teeth as they ate the hard yellow kernels of corn in their feed boxes. At night, a nighthawk screamed A nighthawk screamed as he winged his way through the starlit night. An eerie screech from a tree close by made shivers run up and down my spine. It was a screech owl. I didn't like to hear the small owl, for there was a superstition in the mountains concerning them. It is said that if you heard one owl, it meant nothing at all, but if you heard more than one, it meant bad luck. The last thing we needed was bad luck. I lay and listened to the eerie twittering sound. It was coming from the left of our camp. The creepy noise stopped, and then for several moments there was silence. When next I heard the cry, it was coming from the right. I sat up in alarm. Had I heard 2 owls? I wasn't sure. The movement had awakened Grandpa. In a sleepy voice, he asked, "What's the matter? Can't you sleep? What are you sitting up like that for?" "Grandpa, I heard 2 screech owls," I said. Grunting and mumbling, he sat up, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. He said, "You heard 2 screech owls? Why, that's nothing. I heard 2. Oh, I see. You're thinking of the bad luck superstition. There's nothing to that. Nothing at all. Now you lay down and go to sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a big day." I tried hard to fall asleep, but couldn't. I couldn't get the owls out of my mind. Had I really heard 2? Were we going to have bad luck? Surely nothing bad could happen. Not on such a wonderful hunt. I found peace in my mind by telling myself that the owl had changed trees. Yes, that was it. He had simply flown out of one tree and to another. The next morning, while having breakfast, Grandpa started kidding me about the screech owls. I wish you could have caught one of those owls last night, he said. We could have boiled him in our coffee pot. I've heard there is nothing like a strong hoot owl coffee. Ew, that doesn't sound very appetizing. A hoot owl coffee? Must be an old-timey country thing. It wasn't a hoot owl, Grandpa said. It was a screech owl. I don't know for sure if I heard one or two. It could have been just one. Pointing to a small red oak, I said, I think the first time I heard him, he was over there. The next time, it was over in that direction. Maybe he changed trees. I sure hope so, I said. Grandpa saw I was bothered. You don't believe that hogwash superstition, do you? Bad luck. Bah, there's nothing to it. Papa laughed and said, These mountains are full of that jinx stuff. If a man believed it all, he'd go crazy. The encouraging words from Papa and Grandpa helped some, but there was still some doubt. It's hard for a young boy to completely forget things like that. With breakfast over and our gear stowed back in the buggy, we left Bluebird Creek. On that day, Grandpa drove a little faster than he had on the previous one. I was glad of this, for I was anxious to reach the campground. About noon, we stopped the team. I heard him ask Papa, Is that Black Fox Hollow? No, Papa said. This is Waterfall. Black Fox is the next one over. Why? Well, Grandpa said, there's supposed to be a white flag in the mouth of Black Fox. That's where we leave the road. The camp is in the river bottoms. By this time, I was so excited I stood up in the buggy box so I could get a better view. Maybe you ought to step them up a little, Grandpa, I said. It's getting pretty late. Papa joined in with his loud laughter. You could just take it easy, he said. We'll get there in plenty of time. Besides, these mares can't fly. I saw the flag first. There it is, Grandpa, I shouted. There it is. Where? He asked. Over there, see? Tied on that grapevine. As we left the main road, I heard Papa say, Boy, look at all those tracks. Sure has been a lot of traveling on this road. That smoke over there must be coming from the camps, Grandpa said. When we came in sight of the camp, I couldn't believe what I saw. I stared in amazement. I had never seen so many people at one gathering. Tents were spread out over an acre and a half of ground, all colors, shapes, and sizes. There were odd-looking cars, buggies, wagons, and saddle horses. I heard Grandpa say, almost in a whisper, I knew there would be a lot of people here, but I never expected so many. I saw the astonished look on my father's face. Off to one side of the camp, under a large black gum tree, we set up our tent. I tied my dogs to the buggy and fixed a nice bed for them under it. After everything was taken care of, I asked if I could go look around the camp. Sure, Grandpa said. Go any place you want, only don't get in anyone's way. I started walking through the large camp. Everyone was friendly. I heard one voice say, That's the boy who owns the 2 little red hounds. I've heard they're pretty good. If my head had gotten any bigger, I know it would have burst. I walked on, straight as a canebrake cane. I looked at the hounds. They were tied in pairs here and there. I had seen many coonhounds, but none that could equal these. These were red bones, blue ticks, walkers, and bloodhounds. I marveled at their beauty. All were spotlessly clean with slick, glossy coats. I saw the beautiful leather leashes and brass-studded collars they wore. One second, need some water. I took my pills right before I started reading, and I have one that's kind of lodged a little bit. I thought of my dogs. They were tied with small cotton ropes, and the collars were made from old check-line leather. As I passed from one set of dogs to another, I couldn't help but wonder if I had a chance to win. I knew that in the veins of these hounds flowed the purest of breeded blood. No finer coonhounds could be found anywhere. They came from the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, the Bayou County of Louisiana, the Red River bottoms of Texas, and the Flinty Hills of the Ozarks. Walking back through the camp, I could feel the old fingers of doubt squeezing my heart. One look at my dogs drove all doubt away. In the eyes of little Anne, it seemed as if I could read this message. Don't worry, just wait. We'll show them. That night, Grandpa said, Tomorrow we'll have a contest for the best-looking hound. Which one are you going to enter? I told him I didn't think I'd enter either one of my dogs. They were so little I didn't think they had a chance. Grandpa got all huffed up. He said, "It doesn't make any difference how little they are. They're coonhounds, aren't they?" I asked him if he had seen any of the other hounds. He said, "Yes, I've seen them all. They sure are big and good dogs, too. But it makes no difference. I don't care if your dogs are no bigger than a snuff can. They'll still have a chance. Now, which one are you going to enter?" "I couldn't decide," I said. "I'll think it over tonight and let you know tomorrow." The next morning, I stepped outside the tent and saw men everywhere. They were combing and brushing their dogs and getting them pruned for the beauty contest. Beautiful combs and brushes were used to brush expensive oils into their glossy hair. Going over to my dogs, I stood and looked at them. I started to untie old Dan, but taking a closer look at him, I could see he would never win a beauty contest. His face and ears were a mass of old scars caused from the many fights with tough old coons and bobcats. I held his head in my hands and felt sorry for him, but I loved him that much more. I looked little Ann over and couldn't see any scars. I laughed because I knew why. She was too smart to walk right up in the face of a fight. She would wait until old Dan took hold and then dart in. I untied her rope and walked her over to our tent. My grandfather and father were gone now. No doubt they were over in some tent visiting old friends and making new ones. Looking around to find something I could use to groom my dog, I saw Grandpa's open suitcase. Right there on top was the very thing I needed, his beautiful bone-handled hairbrush and his ivory comb. Picking them up, I turned them over and over in my hand. Little Ann stood looking at me. Impulsively, I reached down and raked her from shoulder to hip with the brush. She seemed to like it. I knew I shouldn't do it, but I decided to use them. Knowing I had no oils, I got some butter from our grocery box. With homemade butter and Grandpa's hair set, I brushed her until she shone. All the time I was grooming her, she tried to lick the butter from my hands. The job completed, I stepped back and inspected her. I was surprised at the change. Her short red hair glistened and every one was in perfect place. Shaking my finger at her, I said, "If you lay down and roll, I'll wear you out," although I knew I never would. Hearing a lot of movement outside, I looked out. Men were setting their dogs on a long table which had been built in the center of the campground. Leading little Ann to it, I picked her up and set her on the table too. I told her to act like a lady. She wagged her tail as though she understood. I untied the rope and stepped back. After the dogs were all lined up, the judges started. 4 judges walked around and around the table, looking at them from all angles. When one of them would point at a hound, he was taken down and eliminated from the contest. Dog after dog was disqualified, but little Ann stayed on the table. My eyes were wide, my throat dry, and my heart thumping. One judge stopped in front of little Ann. My heart stopped, too. Reaching over, he patted her on the head. Turning to me, he asked, "Is this your dog?" I couldn't speak. I just nodded my head. He said, "She's a beautiful hound." He walked down the line. My heart started beating again. There were only 8 dogs left. Little Ann was still holding her own. Then there were 4. I was ready to cry. 2 more were taken down. Little Ann and a big Walker hound owned by Mr. Kyle were the only ones left. The judges couldn't seem to make up their minds. Everyone started shouting, "Walk them, walk them." I didn't know what they meant. Mr. Kyle and I were told to go to one end of the table. Our dogs were placed at the other end. Mr. Kyle snapped his fingers called his dog. The big hound started walking toward his master. What a beautiful sight it was. He walked like a king. His body was stiff and straight, his head high in the air. His large muscles quivered and jerked under his glossy coat. But something went wrong. Just before he reached the end, he broke his stride, turned, and jumped down from the table. A low murmur ran through the crowd. It was my turn. 3 times I tried to call little Ann. Words just wouldn't come out. My throat was too dry. The vocal cords refused to work, but I could snap my fingers. That was all I needed. She started towards me. I held my breath. There was silence all around me. As graceful as any queen, with her head high in the air and her long red tail arched in a perfect rainbow, my little dog walked down the table. With her warm gray eyes staring straight at me, on she came. Walking up to me, she laid her head on my shoulder. As I put my arms around her, the crowd exploded. "No." Hold on 1 second, guys. Come here, Chuggy. Come here. You can get on the bed. Come here. Come here, Chug. Come here. There you go. Come here, Chuggy. You guys remember my Chuggy bear? This is my Chuggy bear and my tiny dancer. Yes, these are my beautiful dogs, huh? My beautiful dogs. Yes, they may not be hounds, but I think they're beautiful, huh? All right, let me put Chuggy up there. Oh, there you go, Chug. Come here. And you guys remember my little guy. This is Joey Joy. Yes, him's a handsome boy. He is the cutest of the bunch. Look at that face. Look at that face. What a handsome boy. Excuse me. And then here is Tiny Dancer. They're all coming over because Ashley Stormfire's got the bed. Huh? Yeah. And they can all get up on the bed with her. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. All right, back to the story. Let me pick up Ashlyn. All right, there we go. Ashlyn. All right. So we left off with the crowd exploded. During the commotion, I felt hands slapping me on the back and heard the word congratulations time after time. The head judge came over and made a speech. Handing me a small silver cup, he said, "Congratulations, son. It was justly won." Tears came rolling. I gathered my dog up in my arms and walked to our tent. Grandpa followed, proudly carrying the cup. As you can see, all of my dogs deeply love Ashley. They have known her for a very long time, and they all think she's the bee's knees. So every time she's over, they're all around her. That evening, the head judge stepped up on a table. He's had a small box in his hand, and he shouted, "Over here, men. I have some announcements to make." We gathered round. In a loud voice, he said, "Gentlemen, the contest will start tonight. I'm sure, and..." All right, sorry about that, guys. Okay. In a loud voice, he said, "Gentlemen, the contest will start tonight. I'm sure most of you men have been in these hunts before, but for those of you who haven't, I'll explain the rules. Each night, 5 sets of dogs will be taken out to hunt. A judge will go along with each pair of hounds. Every morning, the judge will turn in that night's catch. The 2 hounds that tree the most coons will qualify for the championship runoff. The other 4 sets will be eliminated from the hunt. Of course, if there is a tie, both sets will qualify. On the following nights, only those hounds tying for the first night's score or getting more will be in the runoff. Now, gentlemen, this hunt must be carried out in a sportsmanlike way. If the coon is treed where he can't be caught, such as in a bluff, it will not be counted. You must catch the coon, skin it, and turn it in the hide over to your judge. You're allowed to take an axe, a lantern, and a gun with bird shot, which you can use to get the coon out of the tree. 25 sets of hounds have been entered in the hunt. In this box, I have 25 cards. Everyone in the contest will now line up for the drawing. The card you draw will tell what night your hounds are to hunt. Walking along in the line, I noticed the beautiful red coats, the caps, and the soft leather boots worn by the other hunters. I felt out of place in my faded blue overalls, old sheepskin coat, and scuffed and worn shoes. But to the wonderful men, it made no difference. They treated me like a man and even talked to me like a man. When it came to my turn to draw, my hand was shaking so hard I could hardly get it in the box. Pulling the card out, I saw I had drawn the 4th night. After the hunters had left, we stood around our campfire, sipping strong black coffee and listening to the baying of hounds. Time after time, we heard the tree bark. Once 2 hounds came close to the camp, hot on the trail. We listened to their steady bawling. All at once, they stopped. After several minutes of waiting, a hunter said, "You know what? That old coon took to the river and in some way has fooled those dogs." Another one said, "Yes, sir, he sure has." A friendly hunter looked at me and said, "Do you think he could have fooled your dogs?" Thinking his question over, I said, "You know, sometimes when I am hunting away back in the mountains or down on the river, I sing a little song I made up myself. One of the verses goes like this: You can swim the river, old Mr. Ringtail, and play your tricks out one by one. It won't do any good, old Mr. Ringtail. Little Ann knows every one." The hunters roared with laughter. Some slapped me on the back. Tired and sleepy, but with a smile on my face, I went off to bed. The next morning, 2 blue tick hounds from the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee came out in the lead with 3 big coons to their credit. The other 4 sets were eliminated. The following morning, all 5 sets of dogs were eliminated. None of them even tied the blue ticks. Although 2 sets had gotten 2 coons, one of these had treed a third one in a bluff. That day, while eating dinner, my grandfather asked me if my dogs had ever treed 3 coons in one night. Yes, I said, 4 different times, but that's all. Where do you think we should hunt on our night? Papa asked. I told him if we could get the judge to go with us in the buggy, we'd be better off if we could go far downriver, out of range to where the other dogs had hunted. He said, that's a good idea. I'll go to see the judges about it. While I was washing dishes, Grandpa said, I think I'll shave. I should have... Hang on one second, guys. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Where was I? Grandpa was going to shave. Okay. I should have left the tent then, but I wasn't done with my dishwashing. With the pin, Grandpa hung a small mirror on the tent wall. After much snorting, mumbling, and screwing of his face this way and that, the job was completed. Dabbing a little water on his iron gray hair, he reached for his brush and comb. From the corner of my eye, I watched him. I tried to clean the beautiful brush, but hadn't been able to get all the short red hair from it. With his fingers, Grandpa pulled some of the hair from the bristles. Holding it in front of him, he looked it over carefully. Then, bending close to the mirror, he peeked over his glasses. He inspected his head. Straightening up, he looked at his brush again. Turning around quickly, he looked straight at me and said, Say, young. Not waiting for anything more, I scooted for the door. Crawling under the buggy, I lay down between my dogs. I knew he wouldn't be mad at me, but it was best to stay away for a while. The third night, the blue ticks were tied. Can you guys hold on one second? All right, sorry, guys. Evie, relax. Okay. Let's see. On the third night, the blue ticks were tied by 2 black and tan hounds from the Bayou country of Louisiana. All that day I was restless. I prowled through the camp. Every little while I would go and see how old Dan and little Ann were. Once I took 2 weenies from our groceries. I heated them and gave them to my dogs for a treat. Old Dan swallowed his down in one gulp and looked at me as if to say, Is that all? Little Ann ate hers in a ladylike way. I could have sworn I saw a small grin on her face. Grandpa was hopping around like a grasshopper, going here and there. Once passing a tent, I heard his voice. I knew he was bragging about my dogs, and I smiled to myself. Another hunter stopped me and asked, Is it true that your hounds have treed 6 coons in one night, 3 up in one tree? Or is that old man just blowing off steam? I told him my grandfather had a little stream, but I told him my grandfather had a little stream. I don't really understand how that's the answer to the question. But he was the best grandpa a boy ever had. He patted me on the head, turned, and walked away laughing. Okay, that was chapter 15. So they're probably going to start with the hunt in chapter 16. The night they hunt. We only have 4 chapters to go. And then we will be at the end. So you guys need to let me know what you want to read next. Remember, I have the Spirit Animal series. I have the How to Train Your Dragon series. I have a couple of the Harry Potter books. I think Spirit Animals would be interesting just because I think most people haven't read them. So it would be a new story. Or if you guys have story suggestions, books that you've read, that you've really enjoyed, let me know because I can go to the library and get them, okay? So let me know what you guys want to read next. I've enjoyed this book. I think it's been a great story time. What do you think? Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I think the Reborn story time was a really good idea. But I'd like to start another book when we're done with this one. So let me know what you guys want to do. The Spirit Animal series, I think we have 7 books. So that would take us quite a while. There are 6 in the How to Train Your Dragon series, and any other stories. I'll do some research and see what I can find. Are you guys into true stories, fantasy stories? Let me know what kind of genre you're into, and that'll help me in my research to find another book. Okay. We could also do something like the Da Vinci Code, or something like that. Yeah, let me know what you guys think, and we will definitely get another story picked for after this one. We only have 4 chapters left, so if we read 16 on Friday, then next Tuesday we have 17 and 18, and then the following week 19 and 20, and we'll be done. And then we'll take a week off from reading, and I'll do Reborn videos that entire week, and then the following week. So let's see, that would be, I don't have the dates in front of me, but we're at like the 18th now.
Yeah.
So what would be, so the next 2 weeks, and then the third week we're going to take a break. What would be four Tuesdays from now?
Let me check real quick.
Hold on one second, guys. We're looking at the dates because I want to give you guys a date to put your story ideas in by, so I can have time to get the book.
So how many Tuesdays?
4.
The 16th of December.
Okay, so we'll start the newest story on the 16th of December. What's the Friday before that? No, Tuesday before that.
The 9th.
Okay, so you guys need to have your story ideas in by December 9th, okay? And then I will make sure that I look at all the ideas. I'll pick one, and then I will make sure I have the book by the 16th to start the new story. Okay? I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I hope you love Ashlyn. I think she's adorable.
It was good seeing you all.
And Ashley Stormfire's having fun. She just got here today, so we will do another video of playing with babies tomorrow. And then we will, we'll have fun. So I'll talk to you guys later. Love you, ladybugs.
Bye.
Bye.